Hello everyone and welcome back to another AFL Fantasy Fanatics video on the channel. It is Wednesday and time for some trade talk ahead of round 23, the penultimate round of the fantasy season. Can't believe there's only 2 weeks to go. Come along very quick. But we might have a couple of forced trades this week with unfortunately the ruck pig and Zach Merritt missing this week. So you might already have your trade out sorted. So maybe it's trade-ins that you're looking at. So we're going to go through the top 10 most trading players as we always do. Plus we'll touch on a few other options just outside there. I'll give you my thoughts on them. We'll touch on the trade outs as well. And then my top 5 targets of the week. But this week's probably a tricky one to give top 5 targets because a lot of people are going for... I'll probably give my top ruck targets because that's where people are going. And I'll give my top 5 targets if you're going for defender, mid or forward. So I'll do it a little bit differently with the top 5 targets. But we'll get stuck into the top 10 and we'll start off with Ryan Marshall, who's the number 1 trade-in player, 5.6k. And I fully agree with Marshall being the number 1 this week. I think if you're trading out Grundy, which I think we all are, Marshall is the one that you go for. I think he's the best option of all the rucks. He's got, obviously, Bombers this week, then goes into GWS. 2 great matchups. I think he's a great option. He's gone 135 and 142 in his last 2 games. So he's in some really good form as well, taking the bulk of the ruck time again. So I'm even just looking at the CBAs. So the CBAs the week before, I think Max Heath only had the 3 CBAs, whereas last week, I think it was it simple? Well, obviously, Heath got subbed out at half-time, I think, or just after, right? So CBAs, Marshall had the 17, and Heath had 1. So, so Marshall was pretty much at every CBA. So he was the number 1 ruck still. So he's going along quite nicely. 91% tog as well, which I believe is a season high. He had 90 against Gold Coast earlier this year. So I think, he's in for a good last couple of weeks. He's had some really big scores. And, we know Marshall's got a big ceiling. So I think he's the best ruck to be bringing in at this point for the last 2 weeks of the year. Another guy I really like, Tim English, is next. So for a lot of those Marshall owners, so 3.2k jumping on English, a lot of those owners have probably already got Marshall. And this is the question I'm tossing up this week, English or Gawn? Because I got Marshall, and I'm tossing it English or Gawn. I think I've currently got English ahead at the moment. And that's mainly because he's got West Coast this week and then goes into Freo, who's got a pretty good record against, averaging 106 in his career against them. But he's just been consistent all year, just gets it done week in, week out. So since the mid-season bye, he's only had the 1 score below a ton, which was against Brody Grundy. And around that time, or in this time when he was playing Grundy was the hardest match of all of fantasy. So scored an 80 that game, gave away 4 free kicks as well. Every other game, though, look, it's just consistent, ton after ton. And like Brisbane against McInerney and Fort, 102. 101 against the Bombers, so a little bit lower, that score there. Gave away a few free kicks. And a 106 against Max Gawn last week. But some big scores, a 129 against GWS, a 118 against Riley O'Brien, 116 against North Melbourne. I think it was Tristan Cherry when he played him there. 138 against Richmond, 120 against St Kilda, 139. So he's got the ceiling and putting up these scores. So I think I really like English in terms of just his consistency. So I'm tossing up, English or Gawn this week. And I really like English with the West Coast matchup, but I'm tossing up those 2. Josh Dunkley, 3rd on the list, 2.3k jumping on him, and I really like Dunkley as a pick. His form over the last 5 weeks has been fantastic. He's gone over 110 in all 5 games. 3 of those 5 as well have been over 130. So the ceiling's there, just getting it done week in, week out. And Neil being out, I think, has got a bit more responsibility on Josh Dunkley to get the ball. Had 31 touches back-to-back weeks now, and his tackles have been slightly down from what it was a few weeks ago. But if he can get that 30 touches and those 10-plus tackles, that could be 140, 150 territory. So I think Josh Dunkley is a great target if you can afford him at 1.105 million. And, jump on board Josh Dunkley. Jack Sinclair, 4th on the list against the Bombers this week. Great matchup there, 1.8k jumping on him. Good option as well, 146 last week, season high score for him. I just, again, like the matchup. He's got Essendon, then he goes into GWS. The only flag I'd say is if Guelphy's there, does he do a job on Sinclair? Potentially. That would be my only flag with Sinclair. But we've seen defenders still score well against the Bombers, even if Guelphy's there. So I think he'll be fine. That would just be my one flag. If you're trading him in, just be aware that may happen. And Max Gawn, 5th most trading player, 1.4k jumping on him. Again, with the Grundy out, a lot of people jumping on the rucks. And with Gawn, he's been great all year. Average of 112. He goes Hawthorn into Collingwood. Great record against Hawthorn. And he's got a decent record against Collingwood as well. And again, his form has been great, right? So since round 5, he has only had the 3 games under a ton. That was against Jared Witts, Riley O'Brien, Tristan Cherry. The 3 hardest ruck matchups besides Gawn himself. And again, other matchups like 102, 123, 130, 121. So I'm very heavily considering going Gawn as well. It's just if I'm Gawn or English. That's the real question I've got to ask myself this week. And like, part of me's been English, but I keep tossing and changing, right? And I look at this and I go, well, it's got to be Gawn, right? Like, he's going 110 every week. He went 110 every week bar the St Kilda game, where he gave away 4 free kicks, which isn't like a big Gawny to do. The 3 games he had against the 3 toughest matchups, and then the 102 against Carlton, who were a tough matchup with Pitney and DeConing. So even me saying that, like, Gawn's a 110, like, every week outside of a hard matchup. And Hawthorn and Collingwood aren't too difficult, I don't think, for a Gawn, and both are at the MCG. So, like, even talking through here now, I'm thinking, well, do I go Gawn again? So it's a tough one, right? I'm Gawn, or it's English or Gawn for me. It's a tricky one. I don't know which way I'm gonna go yet, to be honest. Devon Robertson is 6th most traded in, 1.2k, 230k guy that is probably going to play at least, you'd think, as a sub, but he is some sort of cover, 230k. Yep, save as much cash as possible. He is someone that you could definitely go for. Matt Kenny is the 7th most traded in, 1.2k, jumping on him this week. Great matchup this week against West Coast. Could put up a decent score there, and then he finishes off with Freo, one of the top few forwards. So if you're looking for a forward, Petrarca to him is a trade I think a lot of people are looking at doing this week. So Matt Kennedy is someone I like. Bont as well, 1.1k. He's what the 9th most trade-in player this week, and not really much say with Bont other than he's the gun. We know this, but his ceiling has really been there since the mid-season bye, right? So he had those 2 tough weeks with the 50 and then the 91 post the bye, but since then he's gone 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tons in 8 games, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of those 6 tons have been over 120. So if he's tunning up, he's gone 120 at the moment. Had a couple of low scores against the Giants and then Sydney, but West Coast and Freo I don't think will be too bad for him. I think he'll go quite well, and I think he's going to finish off the season with a bang. So Bont is a great target for those that don't own him. He's expensive, but a good target. And Tristan Cherry's the 10th most trade-in player, 1.1k, jumping on him. Yeah, Tristan Cherry's so interesting, right? So Richmond this week, great matchup. Had a 150 against Richmond earlier this year. He just hasn't been the Tristan Cherry that we know and love, right? 6 scores in a row, under a ton. And it's not like they've been that difficult, right? Like Freo, Carlton, Hawthorn, Bulldogs, they're not that difficult. Carlton are a bit trickier, but the other ones aren't too bad. Like Gawn is a tough matchup, but he had a 90 odd against him earlier in the year. And then an 83 against Briggs, who hasn't been restrictive at all. It's been a good matchup. He goes Richmond, who, as I said, went 150. And then he goes Adelaide in the final game, right? So I'm not sure what to make of Tristan Cherry at the moment. Like, he's just not doing what we know him to do. Like, he hasn't had double-digit tackles since that Richmond matchup in round 10, and he's only gone over 10 tackles twice this year, which he was doing that regularly at the back half of the year, whereas he's not doing that. Like 7, 5, 3, 5, 6 tackles. Like, it's just him not getting the tackles as many. He's not tunning up. He's not getting those big 110s, 120s, 130s. So if he's not tackling, he's not really doing much else other than hitting out getting the hit outs, right? Because he's not a huge marker of the ball. So yeah, it's disappointing. But yeah, I'm not sure if I could go into Cherry even with the Richmond matchup at the moment. I don't think. And then a few options outside. Matt Rao, if you can get up to his price, he's just outside the top 10 this week, but great option. He's just getting it done. Well, how many tons he got in a row? Just have a look. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. So he's got 12. Is that 12? Or 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 tons. I thought I had it right the first time. My eyes were just going, hang on, isn't it 12? No, 11 tons, and then a 99 was the one before that. So just getting it done. If you can afford him, I think he's still a good option. He's obviously overpriced, right? But we're just getting the best players in at this point. Doesn't really matter on price. So if you want to jump on Matty Rao, I think you definitely can. Jai Culley's an interesting play to see here. 423k, sort of 73 again. Scored a couple of 70s. I'm just not dabbling around in these areas personally. I just don't think it's the time of the year to be going for a Jai Culley. Early in the year would have been a better pick, but not now. I think we've moved past the value players there. Harry Shee's a great option, just getting tons week after week, and more often than not, they're 110s. Richmond this week, great matchup. I definitely like Harry Shee's as a target, along with Luke Jackson. If you don't have Jackson, I think a lot of people are going for the forwards. I do like Jackson as a target still. And Jordan Dawson, love him as a target. He's obviously number 1 mid this year, averaging nearly 112. and 147, season high last week. Obviously, great record against West Coast this year, but he's got Collingwood and then North Melbourne. And I know he only had an 85 against North Melbourne earlier this year, but North Melbourne are leaking points to mids. I think he goes big in that game. Played back-to-back games at 91% TOG, which is interesting. Collingwood as well, great record against them, 138 against them earlier this year. Interesting that he played Collingwood and West Coast in rounds 10-11. And then he goes West Coast, Collingwood back-to-back again now. So it could be another big score for John Dawson this week. At home, massive game for the Crows and Collingwood. So just a big game in general. And then with North Melbourne finishing, I think if you don't have Dawson, it's now the time to jump on Jordan Dawson. Last week was probably that time, but if you haven't got him yet, jump on board. Ed Richards is an interesting name to have here, and I do like this pick. 110 last week against Melbourne. And he's got West Coast this week. Great matchup for him. And then Freo to finish off. They played West Coast. Some played West Coast. He played Freo for an 83. The only thing that worries me with Ed Richards is he doesn't score tons very regularly. Like, he's only tonned up twice since round 15 against Adelaide for a 121, then the 110 last week. But both those games, he kicked 2 goals to get those scores. He gets a lot of the ball, but he doesn't really mark and tackle much. That's my only concern with him, is that he could have 30 touches, but he doesn't score huge. Like, that's my only worry. But if he does have a game where he racks up a lot of tackles, like, look at here, like, he had 31 touches, 8 marks, and kicked 1 goal, had a 130. So I could see a game like that happening for Ed Richards this week. The consistent hundreds. Like, he had a great patch from round 6 to round 11, right? Scoring pretty much a ton every week. But it's just, like last few weeks, like 64 in there, and 84, 72, and 87. Just not what we want from the midfielders, right? If he's a forward, it'd be different. But as I mean, that's my only reservation with Ed Richards. Otherwise, I do like it, and I do like it as a pod play. If you want to go for a pod, West Coast this week, I could see him putting up a big score like a 120. But yeah, that's my only concern, just because Bont, I feel like, it's taken all the ball in there at the moment. Errol Goulden, I like him as a target. Just wonder if he gets attention from Mullen, but he goes Geelong then into West Coast. So I like him better next week. But if you want to jump on this week, Geelong, I'm not too scared. I think he had a 150 against Geelong last year. But we know Errol hasn't been the same Errol this year. Hasn't been that guy that racking up those 120s, 130s week after week. He had a couple of good scores, but outside of that, I think there is only 2 tons actually. Tonned up against the Bombers, right? 114, but obviously the Bombers are very depleted. But yeah, like 124, 127 against the Dogs and Freo. But besides that, hasn't been too big. I think next year is going to be a great starting option. If he's going to be priced around that 100 mark, I think it could be a really good starting option. But yeah, maybe not this week. Maybe next week's the play to bring Errol in. Jeremy Cameron, wouldn't be bringing him in this week against Sydney. Just tough matchup. Next week is the week to jump on Jeremy Cameron against Richmond. So that's when I think a lot of us will be looking to jump on board. Break even still low, so if you're worried he gets away, you could jump on. But I just don't love the Sydney matchup. So yeah, next week would be the time to jump on Jezza. Jaiden Ewan, again, I'm probably trying to just get 230k rooks at this point, right? I know he's like 249 he's playing. I'm just save the 19k. Like, just get someone playing and save the money. I don't think I'm getting anyone other than 230k rooks. Grind Myers, great option as well. Sydney this week, then into Richmond, great option, I think. And then Jordy Payne could be someone you jump on. He's 233k, so if no one's playing at 230k, I'd rather him over a Newen instead, if you can do that. So, that my thoughts on the trade-ins. Let's go to trade-outs. Obviously dominated by Brody Grundy and Zach Merritt at the top 2. Obviously both out, so they're must-trades. Grundy in particular as well, being a ruck, I think it's got to go. And a few people might go, well, could you put Jackson into the rucks and then have Grundy and hold him for a week? I just think that rucks, Gawn or English or Marshall, if you don't have him, Marshall's obviously the top one I'd go. You just go for one of those guys, right? They're going to put up some big scores over the next 2 weeks, so I'd just go for one of them. Zach Merritt as well, he's got to go as well. Chris Petrarca, third most trade out, 2.9k, so I think a lot of those people that don't have Merritt, Petrarca's the one to go. And I'll tick it off. I know Wins is out, meaning that Petrarca could spend some time more in the midfield. But yeah, he just hasn't been the same Petrarca this year, and hasn't put up those scores that we know. Like, he's normally been a 100 plus averaging player, but he's had 3 scores since round 8 that have been over a ton. And he's only had 1 other score in the 90s. So 4 scores since round 8 that have been 90 or more. A lot of them like 71, 78, 84, 70, 70, 81, 89, 75, 84. Just not not what we're after. And people are talking about trading Caleb Daniel out. I think Petrarca's almost more of a priority to trade out, to be honest. I think they're like the same price, right? But I think Petrarca's got to go, unfortunately. Tom McCarthy's next, fourth most traded out. A lot of people might be just upgrading that maybe 23rd Primo. Maybe he's on field. They're just trying to get that upgrade up. Yep, he can go. I know he was good last week with an 88. Had some CBAs, had some kick-ins, but at the end of the day, he's a rookie. We want to get him up. There he made another 34K. He's been amazing, right? He's made so much money. I don't know why it's not coming up with this season price change, but he's made, what is it? Started at 230, made nearly 500K. 489K is very, very good from a mid-season recruit. So congrats to him and congrats to those that have held on to him this long. They've got the cash yet, but it's time for him to go. Callum Mills, fifth most traded out, 1.5K jumping off him. Yeah, I think, again, he can go. I think his ceiling is sort of capped at like 110 in his defensive role. Like his highest score for the season was a 110 against Richmond. And he's been solid, right? He's had a couple of low ones, 67, 65, and 73, but everything else has been over a 94. So he's pretty much a sub 90 or he's either a sub 75. Oh, I was trying to get numbers right. It took me ages to get that right. Anyway, he's either a sub 75 or he's a 90 plus. He's not really going to give you any 80s. He's probably going to give you a solid score or a dirty one, which I just think there's no real upside in terms of his ceiling. So I think he can go. I think that if you can get him to a better player, I think Callum Mills can definitely go if you're looking at that. Andrew Brayshaw, 1.3K jumping off him. I did not think we'd be chatting about Andrew Brayshaw this season as a trade out unless it was an injury or suspension. But here we are, down at 963K. He's only had 1 ton in his last 7. 76 last week was his season low score. He's 138 in round 18 against Hawthorn. But that was with 14 tackles. Like, the tackles have even disappeared as well. Like, the marks have not been there all year. He's had no more than 6 marks in a game, and he's done that once. I don't even know if he's had 5 marks in a game. No, he had 5 marks once. So he's had 6 marks once, 5 marks once, and then everything else has been 4 or less. And at least with Matt Row's giving you 10 tackles a week, at least. And he's getting you 30 touches. Andrew Brayshaw's giving you mid-20s, not many marks, and not really many tackles either. And he's giving away multiple free kicks as well. Like, he wasn't giving away many free kicks here, but look at this, 2, 3, 3, 4, 2. It's the free kicks against and the lack of tackles that are just completely limiting his scores. But I could see it turning around. I could see him getting tackles against Brisbane and the Dogs. I could see him getting maybe a mark or 2 extra. And I could see him not giving away these free kicks. So normally you think it's a hole, right? It's luxury trade season. If he's your worst player, he can go. He can go. If there's a mid you don't have, like a Brayshaw or a Bont or a Dawson or a Rao, and you don't have them and you can get them, I think you can do it. I think Brayshaw can go. As weird as that sounds, I didn't think we'd be saying it, but we are. So Brayshaw can go. Matt Liddy, yep, cash him out. He can go. He has made some more money for you if you've held, so which has been good. So he's up to 478. But he can go and trade him down, get that cash and upgrade on field. Caleb Daniel, I don't know if I'd be trading him this week, to be honest. I know he had a 70 last week, but he goes Richmond. And Richmond are leaking points defenders. If he's your worst player, I'm fine trading because I think his ceiling's capped at 115. Like he's had 115 twice. I think his ceiling's capped at probably 100, to be honest. He's had 4 tons this year and only 1 since round 3. I just think that he's someone that you're not going to get burnt by trading. Richmond's a great matchup this week, but at the end of the day, if you don't have a Kennedy or one of those top forwards, or if you've got a forward in your mids and you can go Daniel up to one of those big mids, I'll still tick it off, right? But I'd probably trade Petrarca. Geez, I'm mixing up words now. We know it's been a long season and a longer video when we're doing that. But yeah, if Petrarca goes before Daniel, but I'd be happy to trade both if you don't have a Petrarca there as well. Lockie Ash at number 9. Look, I'm not trading Ash. He scored a 29. He had to have been sick or something was up because that's his first score below 65, which obviously when you say it like that, it's like, well, 65's a low score anyway, right? He's only had 3 scores this year below 89. And that was a 63, was it, against Melbourne in the wet in round 2 when a lot of people traded him out then. And then a 65 against Sydney when he just didn't really get it done. Besides that, he had 1 really bad score. Look at his time on ground. 74% to me tells me that there was something up. And he sat the last 19 minutes on the bench because they're up by a lot. I think he was sick. sick or there was a niggle. And if we hear there was a niggle, then maybe you think about trading. But Gold Coast and St Kilda to come. Like, I'm looking at bringing him in next week. Like, he's a prime target for me to bring in next week. So I wouldn't be trading him out. I'd be holding him, riding him still, because he's still been a great pick this year, and I think he's going to continue with a couple of good scores to end the year. And Dan Curtin's at the 10th most trade out player. I'm happy to trade as well. Just a bit up and down, Dan. 55 last week against the Eagles, but the wing roll we know can be very up and down. He's been really good, right? Like, it's only his second score below 90 since the mid-season bye, but the only thing with Dan Curtin is if he's not going 90 plus, he's putting up a 50. That's what we've seen over the last 7 weeks. So I think for that, I'd probably trade. If he's your F7, you could easily hold because he's got Collingwood, could go okay, and then he's got North Melbourne, which I think will go well, but I'm still happy to trade. Teakle's got to go, obviously, with Cherry back. Archer May can go as well. I think he might be out I don't know if he's out for the rest of the year, but he obviously injured his ankle, but he can go and cash him out anyway. Butters, Cooper Lord tag this week. Hey, Butters is a tricky one, right? Because I'd say, yep, I'm happy to trade this week. Tag's coming up. But then the week after, he goes Gold Coast. And he could go quite well against Gold Coast. 122 against Freo last week was a great score. Obviously, the 34 was really, really bad. He's just been very up and down. Obviously, with Port struggling with injuries and that the last probably couple of months. I'm happy to trade this week. But if you want to hold, you can. Gold Coast, if he's the perfect 23rd premium for this week. Put him on the bench, loop him, see what he does. If he scores poorly, you take whichever your 23rd player is, right? But if he scores well, you take it, and he's got Gold Coast next week. So he's a target for people next week with that matchup. So, yeah, Butters is a difficult one, probably a team-dependent one for there. But you can trade, you can hold, but best scenario is you can loop him as a 23rd. Boxall, Johnson, Clark, you can go. Neil Bullen, I think people are just trading out knowing that with just a lower score there. I'm happy to trade him out as well. And Ashton Moore, he can go as well, just cashing in those rookies there. My top... So I'll order the rucks because it's obviously tricky this week because obviously rucks and every other position. So I'm just going to give you my rankings of the top 4 rucks. So you've got Marshall, you've got Gawn, you've got English, and you've got Cherry. My order is Marshall's at 1. And then it's English and then Gawn, 2 and 3. But that's the hardest call, right? So I think for people that have got one of English or Marshall, this week would be probably fairly easy because you go Marshall, that makes it easy, right? English and Gawn is so hard. I've got English at the moment, but even just seeing those matchups throughout the year, Gawn, essentially going 110 every week, bar a couple. Obviously, the 3 tough matchups, but he's got Hawthorn and then Collingwood. I don't see them as too difficult for Gawn. I'm still tossing up Gawn versus English. And at the moment, I've got English ahead of Gawn, but it could change. It could really change, and I'm sort of strongly considering Gawn and then Marshall. So I'd go that, and then Cherry's 4th. You could go him as if you want to be a little bit unique. Maybe it gets you Matt Rowell or a Bont or something like that that's high up in terms of price if you can't get them all the way up. But I think I've got Cherry last just with the lack of ceiling at the moment. And then for the other targets there as well, I won't give an order in terms of top 5. I'll just give you the guys I quite like this week as options. So I really like Josh Dunkley as an in this week. I like Matt Kennedy as an in this week. I like Jack Sinclair as an in this week. I like Matt Rowell as an in this week. I like Bont. I like Sheasel. I like Dawson. I don't mind Richards as a bit of a pod play. Like Nasaya. Guys like that if you don't have them. But in terms of like top 5 for this week alone for the final 2, I'd have Dawson in there. I'd have Sheasel in there. I would have the Bont in there. I would have Dunkley in there. And probably a toss-up between maybe like a Matt Rowell and maybe Matt Kennedy or Jack Sinclair if you're going for a defender or a forward. So I'll say Kenny because he's got the Eagles, but it could be Rowell because obviously he's got Giants and Port, but could see him going really well still. And it could be Sinclair if you need defender. So that's probably how I'd rank those. For not necessarily a sort of top 5, but they'd be my top targets in terms of who I'd be bringing in this week. My trade plans for this week. So Grundy's got to go. Obviously for me and Petrarca at this stage will go as well. So I'm going at this moment. I've got Grundy to English, and I've got Petrarca to Kennedy. But I've considered Richards, and I've considered a few mids instead of Kennedy because I've got Petrarca as a 23rd, so I can get a mid or a forward. I've also thought about maybe going Mills. I could get Goulden if I want to get Errol. I could go Gawn and Anderson. That's another option I've looked at. And then Cherry and Rowe's like a real sort of rogue one if I want to have a bit of fun. But I do want to finish up as high as possible. So I think I'm going to go for Gawn and Anderson or English and Kennedy, one of those two options. And I've currently got English and Kennedy at the moment, but I am considering the other option. So I guess we'll see what option I do end up going with. But let me know in the comments below, guys, what you guys are doing with your trades for this week, and I'll try and get to a couple if I can in the comments. But as always, if you do want a guaranteed answer to your AFL fantasy question, or you'd like a team review, you'd like to jump in the Patreon Q&As to get your questions answered through the podcast there, or you just like to shout us a pint or shout us a coffee, head over to patreon.com/AFL Fantasy Fanatics. Link is in the description if you want to jump in on the Patreon for the last couple of weeks as well. And obviously, AFLW Fantasy starts tomorrow night, so looking forward to that. So if you guys haven't already, join in the AFLW Fantasy Fanatics Open League. So the code for that one is BI1H5QVS. So BI1H5QVS. Jump in on the Open League and see how you stack up against the rest of the AFLW Fantasy Fanatics community. And yeah, obviously get your team all done and ready to go at AFLW.fantasy. And you get signed up. And if you haven't already, get a team in. I highly recommend it. Obviously, high lucks for the winner as well. And there's obviously top 100 hats. But yeah, it's just another challenge. It is a little bit different to the men's side of things. It's obviously the same scoring system and everything like that, but it's just a different game in terms of the mids. Maybe you go a little bit heavier there, maybe, or you part for a ruck, and it's not all about value. I guess Marinoff being the main one, being priced at 145, but she's so much clear of the second best fantasy player that a lot of people just start her and go around. So yeah, get your team registered, get sorted. We got a pre-lockout chat special edition tomorrow night, 6 to 7, so 6 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Perth time, for an hour before the start of the first game. So yeah, come over and get your AFLW fantasy questions answered. We'll be answering a heap of your questions there. So come over and tune in tomorrow night. And captains will be uploaded before that, as well as always for round 23. And yeah, make sure you smash a big thumbs up on the video. So all you got to do, just head over to the thumbs up button and click it. That's all you got to do. Helps out a whole lot. So if you can do that for us, that'd be very much appreciated. Subscribe to our channel if you haven't already, so you don't miss any content on the channel. We got content again daily on the channel for the rest of the men's season, plus obviously AFLW season coming up as well. So we've got pods, team reveals, couple pods. We had Liam on Monday night as well. So if you want to check out that one, make sure you do that as well. And yeah, we'll catch you guys tomorrow night for our usual stuff, usual captain's video, and then the pre-lockout chat for AFLW Fantasy. So thanks everyone, and have a good night. See ya.